Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your Cannabis Business podcast. Today, we're going to take a look at a pitch deck. To help us do that is Katrina Glogowski, angel investor and attorney. Katrina, thanks for being back on the Talking Hedge.
Thanks, Josh.
All right, so the Smart Root system, haven't looked at this at all, just like usual. It's going to be the first time we look at it together. It's an AgTech platform to thrive and expand high-value crop markets. And just like we always do, we take a look at the 7 tips to a successful investment deck. But number 1 being, do they identify the business plan goals? Number 2, do they know their audience? Number 3, are they going to understand the market? 4, will they identify needs and roadblocks? Number 5, do they know what sets the business apart? 6, will they introduce the team and products? And number 7, will they create a summary with a call to action? I don't know. Let's see. All right, digital and physical intersection. By the way, I want to note that this is not a deck from North America or even Europe. So the English may not be perfect. I don't know, but just kind of want to throw that out there. So digital physical intersection. So they rent software and hardware that enables market access and boosts productivity 30 to 60% for high value crop farmers. Looking at increased production. So looking at growth and software platforms. Okay, I can get down with that.
I like that he says it costs $3 per plant per year. That's a nice figure to know, Josh.
Yeah, very simple. We'll see how that works out. This next graph looks at the high value crops. So in terms of millions of plants based on Columbia hectares, by the way, this is a Columbia pitch deck apparently. So looking at millions of plants, they can do, 84 million cocoa plants using 300,000 hectares. Blueberries, 75 million plants can be grown across 10,000 hectares and 21 million avocado plants across 100,000 hectares. Oh, and then look, cannabis. So nothing quite there for the numbers, but obviously is ripe for the cannabis market.
I like that chart.
Yeah. Customer valuation proposition. So international market access, enhanced financials and management, traceability, which is nice. A return on investment. So for your crop, for cannabis, you're looking at 1,500% down to about 432 if you use it for avocados. This is based on a 30% baseline yield improvement. So if you're only improving your system by 30%, and this is actually a system similar to what got me into the cannabis space in 2013, was to automate the cannabis space. So I'm familiar with it. I haven't seen something that is plug and play ready to take that over utilizing AI and everything else, but we'll see how far they get. So hardware, software, that's important. So looking at modules and management, the app store, all of that good stuff. So I'm assuming that there's the different modules being, a light detector, soil, moisture, water, even if a door opens or not. So all of those things can be monitored, and with the right software, it can be smart enough to figure things out. Hopefully this company is there. So some of the key learnings, they want to improve the efficiency and technology procedures. I think we'll skip this one. All right, financials. So the profit per year in the US is looking at 225 million. That's based on 100 million customers. So that's kind of difficult to get 1 in 3 people, man, women, and child in the US. Not realistic, actually, at all.
Yeah, 100 million people would basically be every single adult in the U.S. Between the ages of 18 and 49. That would be a large chunk of the market.
Let's assume that they're meaning $225 with a total global customer of 100 million. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that that's what they meant. Getting a 30% market share. First mover advantage, I think, is definitely feasible if they're able to have that kind of data. Um, I mean, look what happened with Ring. Ring got passed up by all of the sharks on Shark Tank, and then it took Amazon to buy it for that to become a household name. So you don't really need a whole ton of market share before someone just doesn't really know what to invest in, sees the opportunity, buys it, and then your 30% market share becomes 90.
Yeah, and as we've talked about before, Josh, cost of goods sold is something that this industry needs to address and needs to get under control. So hopefully this product can address that.
Yeah, hopefully. Like I mentioned, if there's cameras that can detect, the leaves tacoing when it kind of looks like a U shape, that's either from environmental factors like too much wind or nutrient deficiencies. So having like artificial intelligence that can not only pick that up but determine what it is and then correct it is true automation that this industry needs desperately in order to reduce, Canada's dollar per gram, $6 per gram down to more competitive rate in the US that we're seeing roughly at $1.30 per gram. It's definitely going to take automation technology, hardware, software like this to be in place everywhere. In terms of the impact on the climate, looks like they're trying to say that up to 1.5 million tons of water is dumped during the weekend at a tourist site. So they're able to save some water and plastic bottles and everything by using automation, I'm assuming. Not very clear.
This slide confuses me. Let's find out why they're talking about recycling plastic in connection with their product, Josh.
Yeah. All right. The smart root system gives the team, that's good. So they're looking at having a negative CO2 impact to become a green unicorn. Unicorn being a company that exceeds $1 billion in market cap. So
That's
Milestones, they want 27% equity financing for their capital raise. So that's 7% equity with a 6-month runway. What?
this. I like this slide and I don't like this slide, Josh. They're putting real numbers in here. If you invest $12,000, you get 7% equity. I really like that. But I like it because it gives real numbers. And I really, really like having actual numbers of what your dollar is going to buy. But what I don't like is the different classifications and the different percentages and the descriptions of what that investment gets you. So that makes me wonder, are we talking about multiple different companies here? Or are we talking about different phases of the growth of the company? So this slide just isn't clear. So I both like and dislike this slide, Josh.
I've never seen anything like it because the valuations on here are totally different. So whoever created this doesn't understand finance. They don't even know what they're doing. It's a little frightening because this is a lawsuit waiting to happen. This slide alone will get you sued because the moment you sell something $12,000 for 7% equity and then you turn around for a $500,000 valuation, you went from a $120,000 valuation to a $500,000 valuation. So if you sell 10% equity at 50K and then you downsize your round to 120K, that first investor, that angel round for 10% equity at 500K is going to sue you for taking a 12K at 7% because you just ruined their valuation. Whether it turns into a lawsuit or not, you're not doing any favors to anybody setting this up.
Yeah, it is problematic. And again, my initial response is they're actually funding more than one company here.
Yeah.
And if that's what they intended, they just need to make that clear. Uh, but
I like this slide if this were future rounds and they were to give you an idea of what was going to happen in the future and say first round and then next year we're going to do this and then after that. But um, otherwise, it's just incredibly confusing and it looks like a massive liability. Moving
yeah.
on. Oh, that's it. we're not moving on. That's just questions and answers. I got a lot of questions. um, so here we get some photos, I guess, of them growing some cannabis on the moon. So did they get into the hardware at all? Is that like what it's going to look like? This big cylindrical machine that I don't even know what it looks like.
I'm confused by this first slide in the appendix. It's a visual of a rotating cylinder to grow the plants in this cylinder. But why I'm confused, I don't know if this is their process or just the future of agriculture is going in this direction. So I don't know if this is their product or not, Josh. I'm confused.
They say they have a greenhouse cultivation system with climate battery, computer controlled, or a machine assisted. So they're finally talking about artificial intelligence, but for some reason they have like 3D printing. Like, what are you 3D printing for? Why do you need augmented reality? You kick those things out and talk to me about robotics and artificial intelligence and machine assisted stuff. Um, it's almost like they're just throwing all these keywords to kind of get people interested when I don't really think that I have no idea what they're doing at this point. Very confusing.
Yeah.
So they have a technology proposal along with generative design applied to ventilated pots using 3D printing. Okay, so that's what the 3D printer is for, is to make these pots that probably already have patents. I mean, you can't just, these aerated pots, you can't just 3D print those without, a patent infringement. So they're going to mass manufacture ventilated pots with recycled plastics. Okay, so that's where the recycled stuff comes in at. Good to know.
Are 3D printed pots cheaper than going down to Home Depot?
Absolutely not. And it would take way too long. So no, it's not cheaper than getting it from Home Depot, who gets it from China. Phase 1 development is for the root system, and then product development for medical cannabis. Oof. And I'm not even going to try to cross my eyes and read this slide.
I think this slide is showing the timeline of their process. And so they start with a CAD design of apparently a pot.
Okay.
Then they print the pot. Then they put the flowers in the pot. And then, okay. It looks like a maybe 8-day process.
Yeah, I'm going to cut you off right there, Katrina, because I think I've seen enough. All right. Number 1, did they identify the business plan goals?
If the business plan goal is we need money, yes.
Okay.
What they're going to use that money for? No.
Do they know their audience? Do they know their investor audience?
I don't think so. Having a 4 or 5 page pitch deck just did not contain enough information. They used some buzzwords, but no, they didn't.
We really love that total addressable slide, and it wasn't there. They could have at least told us, like in Colombia, what's the advantages or whatever. So yeah, giving them 0 points for knowing their audience because you can't offer different equity percentages on the same slide for the same round. That is an absolute nightmare. Haven't seen anything like that before. So thank you for that. Do they understand the market?
I'm going to give them a 0.5 point here because they are trying to address the biggest problem that the cannabis industry faces, which is cost of goods sold. So I can't comment on whether their process is going to be successful, but at least they have made an attempt to address cost of goods sold. So 0.5 point.
Needs and roadblocks. I didn't see anything with that. I didn't see any roadblocks with the machine learning or anything else. I had a ton of issues with my own automation that I was using, and that's why I left my job and started a company in 2013 to do just this. It still doesn't exist, um, and it's 2021. So you have a lot of roadblocks, and you didn't identify any of those. Nor tell us what you needed. Really, there wasn't. Yeah. So, anyways, I would say give them 0. Where are you at?
Uh, I did not see a single roadblock identified in their slide.
Knowing what sets the business apart could have been really simple to say that, we're going to be one of the first companies to have artificial intelligence, machine learning, all of these things for the grow. And you didn't put any of that in there until like an appendix somewhere deep. So I would have started with that in what sets the business apart, and then answered like why you need it. So I'd have to probably give him maybe half a point because it was buried. What do you think?
I'm going to be a little bit harsher here.
Okay.
They did not name a single competitor, not
Mhm.
a single one. And a company you and I know, Josh, IUNU, is doing a lot of automation and successfully doing automation. So what puts Smart Root Systems above IUNU, and what are you doing different that IUNU is not doing? And that's just an example. There's other competitors out there trying to automate, just as you said, and they didn't talk about anybody else. And to me, that's a failure. And it's something that's easy to fix. Just pick anybody and say, this is why we're different than this other company. And I also think they missed a very large opportunity to point out the difference of cost of goods sold in Colombia. We have talked repeatedly that Colombia can produce for less than 20 cents a gram, and that's why people want to grow in Colombia. And if they can get that cost below 20 cents into 10 cents with their automated system, that is just phenomenal. And that is where I would like to see improvements in this pitch deck. Improve on the natural benefits that growing in Colombia already provides. And they didn't even mention that. They
Mhm.
didn't even mention that you can grow 6 times a year in Colombia outdoors. They didn't mention any of that.
Yeah. Growtronics would be another competitor to add to that. That's who I was using back in the day. But I don't think they've really done anything. So that's another interesting company. Moving on to number 6, introducing the team and products. They did introduce the team. They did introduce the products. So,
Well, did they introduce the product though, Josh? Is their product hardware, software, 3D printed pots,
right.
automation? What is their product? So
They mentioned the product. They didn't. So they did say hardware, software. They mentioned it, but they didn't really show what it was. And then when we saw it, we're like, "Is this going to be something on the moon? Is this a prototype? Is this augmented reality? What are we looking at?" So, yeah, maybe half a point because we're still unsure about. I mean, they could have literally just gone to Growtronic's website, grabbed some of the images, and then whatever, take something, show us something. I don't want to see images of the moon because no one's going to be going on the moon. It's ridiculous. Uh, Creating a summer with a call to action. We did get some financials, but nothing that really made me pull out my checkbook. So I don't know. What do you think?
um, I did not see a call to action. Uh, I like this slide, this pitch deck as an initial draft, and they can solve some of the problems that we have raised by reordering their slides and
Mm.
fleshing out some of their existing work. I would also advise them to consult with somebody in this industry so they don't make errors, like you pointed out, of having different dollar amounts, different equities on the same slide, which would get them into regulatory problems just on the face of it. but that's an easy fix again. Break them out, explain that it's different companies. So I do think that this deck is recoverable. They have a good start. I would encourage them to revise and clarify the pitch deck a little bit, and maybe come back for our second review, Josh.
Yeah. 3.5 out of 7. It's not the worst we've seen. 50% is obviously not the best, but there's a lot they could do to improve that. Back to the slide here with the 7 tips to successful investment deck. They can know their audience a little bit better, like you mentioned, Katrina, about having the ask be a little bit better, and not have multiple asks to screw up that valuation, and then shore up that market a little bit. Show us that you understand what's going on by eliminating the fluff. You don't need the augmentation, the virtual reality. You don't need the 3D printer. Get rid of that stuff. Just focus on the core, which is automating the software with hardware components. Tell us what issues you have with needs and roadblocks. Highlight what sets the business apart with the competition like Growtronics or Iunu, and actually show us the product in the very beginning and not the end. I think that's going to be huge. So when you do get to that call to action, that people are energized by your presentation.
And my last comment to Smart Root Systems is to broaden your market appeal. Can this product be used for tomatoes? And if it can, your reach to potential investors is exponentially larger than just limiting it to cannabis. Mm-hmm. And if you can, in fact, increase yields by 3%, that would be very, very interesting to any agricultural product, not just cannabis, Josh.
Right. 30 to 40% for avocados and blueberries. And then if you can increase 30 to 40% on cannabis, that's going to be huge, because we're just talking about that in order to bring the cost down in Canada to match what they're doing in the US, or even Colombia, that is going to potentially have some of the best product at the lowest price, could all originate in Colombia. So interesting that this deck is from there. Maybe they'll improve that, get somewhere with it. Right now it seems more like an idea. So whether or not it gets off the ground, who knows? Just have to come back to the Talking Hedge and find out. I want to thank my guest, Katrina Glogowski, angel investor and attorney. Thanks for being back on the podcast.
Thanks, Josh.
We're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.